Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, 4 nerds, by nerds, hang out with all these nerds.
Nerdarchy Ryan.
Nerdarchy Ted.
Nerdarchy Adam.
And I'm Nerdarchy Calvary.
The Calvary is here.
The Calvary is here. I love that last name. I'm stealing it. Their last name. Here, you guys are here. We're going to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. This is your show, essentially, and we are your humble Nerdarchists at your disposal. But before we start with that, Ryan has an announcement he would like to make.
Well, and by at your disposal, that's not our bodies being thrown into a ditch. I don't want to end up in the charnel pit again. That shit was not cool last time, and it won't be cool again or ever. So, yeah. So we have the Cringe Who Stole Father's Winter's Day shirt. We've got that giveaway going, and we didn't quite hit the quota, but I mean, this is like the inaugural Night of the Nags. It's the shirt giveaway. So I think by the end of this, I want to give away a shirt. So toward the end of the Hangout, we'll announce who won. And if you go over to Nerdarchy, the fan book, the Facebook fan page, the pinned post, if you tag 3 friends, you'll be entered in to win it. So by the end of this, probably around 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or an hour from now, we could announce a winner on that.
Nice.
And just to clarify, if, say, me is not lucky enough to win the shirt, where could I go to buy one? Because they look awesome.
In the same post.
Awesome.
In the same post, you could click it, and that'll take you to buying one as well. And hey, if you happen to win a shirt after you bought one, we'll just give you back your money or something. We'll work that out. So,
sweet.
Or you get 2 shirts.
Or you get 2 shirts.
Yeah,
Even better. I mean, the color selection is pretty awesome.
Win the shirt. You hope that you win the shirt, and then you buy the hoodie, and then you can just double up.
You can double, like you come in wearing a hoodie, right? You got this sweet hoodie. Maybe it's maroon color. I don't know. And then all of a sudden you're like, huh, it's kind of warm in here. So you take off the maroon color hoodie. Underneath, baby blue, right there.
Boom.
Bam!
Everybody knows about the cringe.
You double nerd, son. Double nerd.
I just wanted to say we got Mexico in the house. Woo woo!
Mexico, really? That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I love hearing about other countries watching us. Going, what are these stupid Americans doing?
Oh man, I got a 404. That's an error not found for looking at the Q&A.
Yeah, I did too. I don't know what's up with that.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys
see.
want to talk about? It's your show. So, one of you guys said you were starting a new campaign, I think.
Oh, I know I am. Adam, you might be as well.
I'm just a player.
I was lucky enough to check out my local game shop and pick up not only Volos Guide to Monsters, which we'll get into, but I also bit the bullet and picked up SKT. And I'm really excited for Storm King's Thunder. I've been flipping through it, but this is actually going to be my first experience. Yeah, he's got a good one. This is going to be my first experience running a pre-built module. And I mean, it gives you so much stuff to use, and it plans out, virtually everything you need. I'm just wondering, is there anything I need to have ready besides the book? Because I mean, everybody knows the saying, your story never survives the players, and I feel like even a pre-built module is not immune. So I'm just wondering from you guys, y'all don't normally do pre-built stuff, but in the experience you do have you needed anything extra, and what else would you bring to the table to supplement what Wizards has already put out?
I want to say, like, one really cool thing I had heard about Storm King's Thunder, I haven't looked at that thoroughly, but the fact that there's like a story flowchart, which is better than pretty much most modules to give you a sort of a hint of what's to come. Like, that's the problem with most modules. You have this like 200 some pages of content, and if you don't know what direction the campaign's going in, it could give you an inaccurate portrayal of NPCs because you didn't know that was the thing you should be anticipating.
Right. Okay.
So I would prepare anytime you're dealing with pre-made stuff. Have your improv ready to go.
Okay.
If anyone decides that they're going to take a left turn from whether it's prepared material that you've written or prepared material that some other publisher has written, you have to be ready with whatever they're going to do. And I've run a game where the players, before the game started, said, we're going to do X. And the moment that we were in game and the options were presented. They're like, nope, we're going to do Y instead. I'm
They
like,
did X.
are
Like, they were
you
on
kidding
ecstasy.
me?
They were on ecstasy. Is really what happens. They just kind of like rubbed on each other, and it was a bad show because like the orcs showed up. It was just all kinds of wrong.
That being said, Ted's players are dicks. So what are you gonna do? So what I would do is just have like maybe a list of names or something for NPCs, occupations, professions, that kind of stuff, just in case they latch onto something you don't expect them to latch onto. You might want to have some random encounters ready, or at least have some encounters from the book. Like all these modules are really good about putting in random encounters, right? So you can probably steal and insert them anytime you get stuck for. Well, I need something to happen here, and just be familiar with those sections.
Yeah, and they do have the appendices in the back are full of NPCs, all the various like creatures and stuff that you can come across. And one of the things I love about Volos is that a lot of the bigger enemies, like the giants, it gives you the psychology and the sociology and how they act in different situations. And I feel like that's a good tool to have as well. And on page 17, actually, I found the flowchart in question. And I'm just, even looking at that, I'm terrified that somehow the grave domain cleric that wants to grow up to be a necromancer is just going to throw off the whole thing, and the story is going to be doomed.
Well,
what's going to happen is,
go ahead, Dave.
Sure. Lines and zigzags for what your players actually do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're going to zigzag your flowchart, but also, like, I don't know, if you're offering the Storm King's Thunder adventure, your players should be on board to play characters who are going to be at home in the setting of Storm King's Thunder, like, Northern Barbarians or whatever. Like, I think it's par for the course that if you're playing in a module, the onus is on the players to make characters that fit in the world of that module.
That's
so
true.
have you actually talked to your players about that you're excited about running, as you called it, SKT?
We've sat down and talked about it. I let them flip through Volos and see some of the new races, and we've talked about possible character builds and whatnot. I just let them know that while this is a pre-built module, there are like certain, there's a certain amount of leeway with how they want to approach things. Because if you look at the flowchart, there are certain parts of the adventure where players can take one choice or another, or even a third in some cases. I'm just worried that knowing the history of this group, it'll go from Dungeons and Dragons to drinks and dancing, and we're not going to end up getting anywhere. So
I know you're going to end up with a scene out of Ella Enchanted.
Yeah, who knows? I think though, once I sit down and talk to the guys and let them know that this is what we'll be playing, it'll probably be a lot easier to get them to stay on track. It's just there's always that random moment of inspiration that they have mid-campaign that just throws everything off the rails. So
it sounds like if you go ahead.
Even though you're doing a module of pre-planned adventure, or especially because you are, do a session 0. Even if it's a half a session, like you start with discussing characters, goals, and this is what the module's about. I would really appreciate if you made characters to go along with the adventure I plan on running. Yeah, essentially, like Ryan said, getting buy-in from your players, or you as the DM is going to be dissatisfied, and so are they.
Right.
You might have to hype it up and really sell it to them first.
And the other thing to go along with that is, if you're willing to, if we're prepared and willing to adapt this module for what the players are going to do, you also have the ability to take into account what are those character goals that you have to work into the said story. And that's always the mark of a good story, is it's not just the prepared material. It's, I'm going to insert this encounter, this NPC, this loot to satisfy one of these players' goals, so that it becomes more memorable, that they feel that they are a part of the world, they have the ability to change it, and therefore everybody will be happier.
Right. All right. That's a good thing to keep in mind then. So definitely, even with the pre-planned material, for sure session 0, and like always, try and find a way to draw them into it.
So I was just looking at the chat real quick. I want to say hi to our staff writers, Ty Johnson and Nubs, Nigel Sanford. Thanks for hanging out, guys. So I wasn't really paying attention. I don't know if Ted just said what I'm about to say, because that happens often. But the thing I was going to say about with the session 0 too is, if Ted might have covered this, if they have character goals, try and personalize the adventure to their goals. Like,
yep, this sounds familiar. I think there's an echo in this Google Hangout.
All right, perfect.
Dave has the attention span of a flea.
Hey man, someone's got to pay attention to all those nerd archists out there. They're not alone. We see you. I see you anyway. The other guys are like, fuck
this Q&A app thing is 404 error.
I was about to ask, is there a way that we can get like questions and stuff?
You have to go to the actual watch page, and the live chat is on the watch page.
Oh.
So you go over there, mute the video.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna do that. So there might be an echo at some point.
You could just
it's all good.
You could just mute yourself first, Ryan.
When's your game kickoff?
We're going to try and get it started, I think the second weekend of December. So I've got a little bit of time to sit down with him. I luckily just got put onto a different shift, which just so happens to be the same shift that all of my D&D friends are on. So we have a nice cohesive schedule. And we're wrapping up another campaign that a friend of mine has been running, where he set it up so that it is one team of adventurers working for one country, and another team of adventurers in another country, and the two countries are at war. And we talked about this in an earlier video. It's an interesting dynamic where the actions of one group indirectly impact the other. And that's a lot of fun.
How's that been going?
It's been going pretty well, actually. He's always really good about finding new abilities to kind of add in and tie in to different characters' backstories. But unfortunately, he's got to go on a month-long business trip to California. So we're going to try and use that time that he's gone to get into Storm King's Thunder and see how that goes.
Cool.
Pretty excited.
Been on air since that thing happened too, Chris. Congratulations on the new baby.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. She is cuter and louder every day.
Congratulations on spawning a level 0 human.
It's not going to change. Not going to change for a while. My 4-year-old daughter likes doing nothing more than screaming in my ear, and she thinks she's just talking.
I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I will agree.
Yeah. All right, well. I have noticed a lot of my my daddy time is very much, okay, how can I keep her like quiet and content, and then try and fit my time into her time. But it's going well so far.
Awesome.
Definitely a set of the foam D&D dice are definitely helpful.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they have like plush D&D dice. It's
Wow.
beautiful.
I'll think of that.
Having a newborn baby is kind of like having a sleeping dragon in the house. Like, it's always trying to you're trying to keep it pacified and asleep, and you don't want to wake it.
It's constantly failing stealth checks.
Yeah. All you can do is give an offering. Pancake, get down. All you can do is give an offering and hope that it appeases the beast.
Now, just for our audience, Pancake is your dog, not your daughter, right?
Right. Pancake is the chocolate lab.
She's really
impressive. It would be impressive if the newborn was already jumping at his lap.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Pancake is not so much a Labrador as he is a Labra dummy, but he's pretty cute too. So it works out.
So did anybody check out the new Druid circles today?
Not it.
Chirp.
That's my wild shape into a cricket.
I'm playing catch up on work, so I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, I didn't know gosh, can't talk today. They released anything today. I just read the cleric domains and then watched y'all's video on them earlier today, and that was pretty cool.
Well, it seems like it seems like they're doing a pattern of they're just going through the player's handbook in order, and they're releasing something every week. They did Barbarian, then Bard, then Cleric. Now we're up to Druid. So it looks like they're trying to knock them out as quickly as possible.
So we got 3 new circles from Druid. We got Circle of Dreams, Circle of the Shepherd, and Circle of Twilight. And then they also have some weird new rules for wild shaping, which they're not really new at all. But we'll do a whole video on that this week. So they seem to be releasing one a week.
Yeah. It's they're going at breakneck speed here. They're really doubling down on that.
Yeah, and some of them
they must have hired another person or two.
Man.
So what would you guys most look forward to seeing going forward for your the classes that haven't been released yet? Any ideas?
Druid was I feel like was the most sorely needed of all of them.
I'm gonna jump on Ryan's on Ryan's before he says it, but Sorcerer.
Yeah, but we've seen a bunch of sorcerers.
We got two others. We'll see what else they do because according to Ryan, we only really have one in the books.
Yeah, there's only one viable option. The other is like ridiculous at randomness, but if you want actual playability, just play Dragon Sorcerer.
There's a Storm one, and isn't there like a Darkness one or something too out there?
I don't know about the Darkness one, but I know the Storm one, in my own personal opinion, was kind of underwhelming. And like Ryan said, really for reliable playability, Draconic Sorcerer is the only option. Because Wild Magic's fun, but I would look forward to having some new options for that, definitely.
See, I actually want to play the Favored Soul. I just haven't gotten around to it. Actually, that'd make a great Aasimar character. That was one of the really early Arcana, and it was basically taking the Sorcerer and making it into a kind of a new class.
Right.
But, they remade the Favored Soul from earlier editions.
So,
that was the modifying classes Unearthed Arcana, wasn't it?
Yes.
So I
just dropped the link.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Adam.
Oh, I was going to say I've actually watched the videos about the Sorcerer and the Wild Magic Sorcerer. What do you guys, having had some time pass, is there anything that you think would fix that particular class? Because I play one, and I love the Wild Magic Sorcerer, but I have a DM who's very friendly with the Wild Magic Surges.
Yeah, you have to use the surges all the time, like basically just whenever a caster casts and has already used Tides of Chaos. Like, you pretty much have to just say, there's not even GM fiat, just have it happen every single time. And then another thing we found that's really fixing the Wild Magic Sorcerer is to make their Ben Luck, make that be more swingy, like a Bard's Inspiration die as opposed to the D4, because the D4, like, how often are you going to choose to use that? You can barely influence anything, so you could maybe roll a 2, like, and count on that, but like in a clutch situation, you're almost never going to roll that. Whereas if it goes up similar to the Bardic Inspiration die and follow that track, take that D6, D8, or D10 gamble with it on spending 2 sorcery points. But otherwise, 2 sorcery points can be a lot better spent. I'm gonna real quick. I did just put the link to the T-shirt giveaway thing that we're gonna do by the end of this. That's in the comments. I'll spam that in there again in the live Q&A chat. So I will do that. But so you just follow that link. You can tag 3 friends, and you'll be entered into to getting a shirt. Because anybody who just came in, you would have missed it.
Woohoo! I want a free shirt.
I would love a free shirt.
So what about you, Adam? What about you, Chris? What are you looking forward to in the unreleased new character archetypes?
I'll let you go first, Adam.
Oh man, I'm not even sure. I think in 4th edition I played a pacifist cleric, and I don't really know I don't think there's one for 5th edition, correct? Like the cleric who is not going to do necessarily any damage. I know like the life cleric is the generic cleric, isn't that kind of the term
Yeah, you know the life cleric and the knowledge cleric are I think are as close as you're gonna get to the pacifist, and you could technically take either of them and just be like, all right, I'm gonna take a vow of of not harming things, and there you go. That's an RP choice, and you've got the ability to run around doing healing and doing as you will. But I just don't think that they've got that out there.
It was a hard play, though. It was hard to play a pacifist cleric.
But we've already got cleric.
Yeah.
Already released, and they kind of threw us for a little bit of a doozy with that one.
Yeah, the gravedigger was not gravedigger.
Just grave.
Yeah, that sounded interesting, but I know there was some discussion back and forth as to what the nomenclature should have been with the naming convention.
Yeah.
I think we settled on gatekeeper was our favorite.
Makes sense. Yeah,
Are you the gatekeeper?
Some kind of afterlife or preservation or something. But as far as pacifist, if I was the DM for that cleric, what I would do is, as long as you adhere to like not using weapon and arm.
Did we lose him?
Arm up over and over again.
We heard nothing of that other than not using arm.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. So what I was saying is, in 5th edition, I would use the flaw system to have a pacifist cleric. So as long as you didn't use armor and you didn't use weapons, then I would be constantly feeding that character inspiration.
Oh, okay.
Which Dave is awesome at remembering, let me tell you.
I need Marcus.
I remember they gave me inspiration once, but then I didn't get a chance to use it.
All right, so what
I
about
gave
you?
inspiration once, only once.
So what about you, Chris? What are you looking forward to out of these new class archetypes?
Oh man, after looking through Volos Guide to Monsters, I discovered the majesty that is the Bard, but that's already been released. And honestly, I didn't like the new archetypes. I actually preferred College of Lord, all that other stuff. So Bard aside, I would like to see Fighter, just because having so many stat bumps just sets my inner min-maxer abuzz to see how many cool things I can do. Knowing my luck, I'll probably just skip Fighter. But I also really love to see Monk, because with the Tabaxi that just came out again in Volos Guide to Monsters, it's super awesome. Check it out. There was a user on Reddit, I believe it was Large Fiend was the username, and he did the math with the Tabaxi. With the right enchantments, you can break over 450 miles an hour. And as known in previous Nerdarchy videos, and by my favorite shirt, I do love me some fast builds.
So for some reason, this Tabaxi happens to be red, and he does have this yellow zigzag pattern down the front of his chest.
Right.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome. You know, maybe he was raised by Eric Hokris, so he has like little wings on a hat or something. I don't know.
You understand that 450 miles an hour is nowhere near what
I know.
Barry Allen can do.
It's still pretty cool. So when I can, oh gosh, what is that, like 90 squares? Like run, punch a couple things, you know, they can't attack you. You just spend the next like 3 minutes making your DM move your mini around the map because you're just wasting time for your teammates to figure stuff out. Come on, it's great.
Yeah, I would just say, like, all right, he moves in this circle, but this is where he ends up.
Yeah. Because he's super cool like that. But he's dead.
if that's what he's gonna do, you're gonna have to do the movement then.
Yeah. Go on, Pancake. Go on. This dog. But yeah, Monk is definitely one that I've always been super stoked for. And you know, I think Rogue, they're going to do some interesting things. Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide also added a few new interesting archetypes.
Mastermind is one that I remember.
Yeah, that's the one I was going to bring up. Because even more than handling combat, which I think it was actually in the cleric domain video, Dave, you said that D&D is only combat and nothing else. And I know you said it sarcastically, but I just watched it a couple minutes ago and I had to bring it up on stream. I feel like more than anything, these new archetypes give players a bit more freedom in how they want to RP that character. Because, for example, if I didn't have Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, but I wanted to be, you know, that kind of sneaky, not stabbing people, but still criminal underlord kind of rogue, I would just have to make do with Thief and not use some of those features. So if anything else, it'll give people more freedom to be the specific character they want and still have, even if it's just ribbon abilities, but unique things that they can do during the game. So that is most interesting to me.
The thing that we were complaining about on that video is that the cleric at first level, like, oh, you know, we're just going to give you the default of heavy armor because it makes sense. And at 8th level, we're just going to say, you know, you swing for more damage because that's just what it was. We would have liked to have seen something specific to that theme beyond extra damage. It felt like, well, we'll just add it in there. And it's across the entire board at 8th level. And a bunch of them have the heavy armor at first, and it just doesn't really make sense. Why can the nature
cookie cutter clerics at that point? Just like, here's a cleric cookie. There we go. We just made one for you. Got it.
This one has Revivify, and this one has Raise Dead. Pick which one you want.
I'll take the Raise Dead. It's more powerful.
Yeah.
So one of the things that Ted probably doesn't realize is we had, and Nate as well, we had like a 2-minute rant about the 8th level cleric abilities and everybody getting heavy armor at 1st level that I kind of edited out.
Oh.
So it's kind of like, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, we're going on and on. I'm tired of hearing about this. They don't want to hear about this.
I remember at the end of the video, y'all were like, I mean, Forge and what was it, Protection, I think, or Protector, like that makes sense to get heavy armor. Like Forge, you have to be able to, like, you know, make it and wear it to know how to make it for other people. And Protection, you're going to be getting, you know, hit by axes and stuff a lot.
Both of those make sense. And if you take Grave and you turn it into Gatekeeper, that you're literally the protection of life and death, then I'd even allow that one to have the heavy armor. But
no, they gave it the
Grave,
bad lady name. Yeah, it's
like,
not.
It didn't make sense to me. So, meh.
Yeah, the Grave name just screams, I'm a necromancer.
In the DMG, they have the Death Domain Cleric, which is more of that vibe. So when I saw a Grave Cleric, I was really confused. I was like, you know, they've kind of already done this, but it's just this weird niche that didn't need to be made, in my opinion.
I think,
as y'all said, the Life 2.0.
I think they were trying to say, you know what, we want to put out three new domains. This is what we're gonna do, and they were stuck, and they kind of let's do this one.
Right. It is interesting, and man, this is a conversation I was thinking about earlier. I would like to have this conversation with Scott, because I feel like there's a lot I could learn from him about this. But the way that I know, there's already people clicking off the video. I'm sorry. I used to be one of you guys, and then I watched that talk when y'all had to delay the Monty Cook video because of tech difficulties, and it was you guys and Scott talking about Paizo. That changed my opinion on Mr. Garrity. I'd love to sit down and have a talk with that guy. I feel like what they're doing with the Unearthed Arcana and doing it weekly, introducing more and more options, is very much a step away from their previous paradigm and the paradigm that Paizo had, which was like once every 6 months or so, we're going to release a 200-page book, and if you want all the new stuff, you have to get that. I feel like that with the free PDFs and just the frequency of things, they're really kind of changing to fit more pace with the young millennial generation that has to have everything weekly in bite-sized doses. Right.
You know what?
For free.
So the micro content thing, the way I think of it, WotC these days is running more like a tech startup, where they're just like rapidly paced, like prototyping, testing, and then getting feedback from the community, and then the final product that they get That's going to be what gets printed, like the result of all that feedback.
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
And we have a little person.
Yes. Pancake has to go to the park, so I am on level 0 human duty. This is Katie. Hello.
Oh, look at the little halfling.
We have a gnome in the house.
Oh, it's a gnome, not a halfling.
Or kobold.
Level 0. At that point.
Or is that a kobold creeping over his shoulder?
Kobold ain't my baby.
Yeah. But I'm sorry to interrupt you, Ryan. With the tech startup you were saying.
I think I more or less made the point or whatever, but yeah, that they're just kind of operating at the same level that that sort of just a tech startup company might have been, as far as just rapid prototyping, getting feedback from the community, and then that's going into their final product. So they're, they are crowdsourcing it to some degree, but we all kind of benefit from having exposure to it and getting to check it out.
Well, one of the interesting things they did, because Chris has Volos guide, we have a copy, one so far, and one of the really interesting things they did with Volos guide is it's not just a monster manual. Like they were smart. They're like, okay, we put player races in here. We put, well, I wouldn't say new monsters, but they're not new monsters. They've just brought back monsters from previous editions that were popular. But in addition to that, what they also did that was great is they did these really big monster ecology write-ups and gave you ways to really customize and make your monsters not just things to kill, but NPCs as well. So, like, it's the best book they've put out so far, and I hope they continue going in that direction.
And that's one of the things I was mentioning earlier, talking about Storm King's Thunder, is the fact that they've included not just the ecology, but how these beasts can think. Everything from giants to beholders to the goblinoid horde. There are so many new ways to, like you said, make these creatures NPCs as opposed to just, targets.
It's part of the concept of playing in a world as opposed to a dungeon. You want your players to really feel that they're in a living, breathing place, as opposed to what is the next thing that I have to conquer, encounter, or deal with.
Sorry, she's got the hiccup, so I have to keep muting my microphone so she doesn't interrupt everybody. All in all, I think that you're right. It's not just a monster manual, Dave, and how they have kind of handled putting this new material together, and how they've been releasing more and more things. I think it just shows that Watts is not getting stuck in a rut, in much the same way that Scott Garrity would say that Paizo did. And I think it speaks really well to the fact that they are trying to make 5e the foundation of the next, 10 to 15 years of their franchise. They've done an excellent job with it mechanically, and I think that if they continue the way they're going now, that 5e is going to be around for a really, really long time. And I don't remember how this originally tied into what our favorite upcoming archetypes were, but there you have it.
Well, we were talking about how they're going forward with their content, as well as the Volos guide, how they've really kind of changed things up from everything they've done previously.
So, Adam, is there anything that you wanted to talk about? You've kind of been quiet, except when prompted.
I tend to take in as much as possible. That's kind of because full disclaimer, again, I have never DM'd or GM'd. I am a player this far. And we actually have like two more campaigns on back burners. So I keep getting kind of pushed back. So it's really actually helpful for me, really just listening to the discussions and kind of, making my little notes on my note card or whatever of things people say, just so that eventually when I do sit in that chair, which is kind of terrifying, to be honest, I'll have some good reference points to go to.
Or you're just building a library of knowledge so that you can be a rules lawyer against the current DM and usurp him.
Actually, I am the rules lawyer. I'm the guy. Actually, it was great because Nerdarchy responded with a video response actually about being an effective rules lawyer. And
we did.
Yeah, and actually, it was the group agreed that I'm not the classic rules lawyer, but that I'm a reference point. I'm a good person to. Oh, that's on. Let me look, and I can scroll through the book real quick and briefly read it and summarize, and then we can move on or whatever. So, a positive rules lawyer.
I mean, you've got half of the equation of being what it takes to be a good dungeon master. Like half of it is decent rules knowledge, and then the other half is just being willing to improvise and let the story go where the story needs to go. So
yeah, that's
those two things. You got it.
The improv. That's the part I'm a bit scared of because I've been guilty of collusion with the other players to sometimes throw that monkey wrench. So I know it's going to come back like twofold when I'm sitting in that chair. So it'll.
And you know what'll happen?
Dice karma.
You know what? Do you know what happens when you DM a game and you wind up not doing things perfectly?
What's that?
You create memories. This guy right here, Dave. I ran a one shot at a family get together kind of thing, and Dave decided, you know what, he was going to play an enchanter. Didn't matter what I had planned. He decided, you know what, I'm just going to start taking over the stupid people in town because back in second edition, charm person, if you had a low intelligence, you got a saving throw in a month.
Oh, wow.
So he utterly derailed. He started doing all kinds of things he shouldn't have done. And as a very inexperienced DM, I didn't really know what to do. But, the times that you screw up, you have the ability to think back on them later and say, well, if a similar situation were to happen in the future, this is how I'm going to handle it. As with everything else, you get better at doing things with practice.
Okay.
So, you got you've got these campaigns that are going on, and you have some friends that are getting together on an off night. Run a one shot for them. Let them do their worst, because the worst that's going to happen is you're going to create memories. They're going to laugh at you, but they're going to be those memories that will give you that experience to do a better job next time.
Okay.
Full disclosure, I was a horrible player to Ted. So he totally got zero player buy-in. I was just going to play the game that I was playing, and
so I believe it is Alfiend in the comments section and the live Q&A. Put, oh god, not the brothel story again, or something to that effect. So it's reached the level of legend at this point.
Unfortunately, I've deeply scarred Ted, and now he keeps bringing it up every time.
It was an example that fit this particular situation. I don't find it scarring. It's an impactful story, and it's something that builds on this particular case.
There's like 3 stories that they hear over and over again, and that's one of them. The other one is the Hydra.
Gotta love the Hydra.
And then there's the Steve stories.
I mean, the truth of the matter is we've literally only actually played 3 sessions of Dungeons & Dragons, and everything else has been CGI up until this point. It's all a figment of your imagination.
CGI and voice actors? Is that what it is?
Yes.
We clone it out. It's all AI.
So we got this chat thing going on. Before we started the Hangout, I had come back, and Ted was already talking with some of the guys in the chat field about Gamma World, because we're going to be putting up our first gameplay of that probably this weekend. So that was a lot of fun.
Adam
looks. Oh, go ahead, Ted.
Gamma World was a great game. I'm looking forward to the next session in just a few short weeks.
Yeah, I didn't really look over my character because I had randomly generated my character from an online generator, so I didn't thoroughly look at it until I got to the table. And I was like, oh, I have a 5 intelligence. A lot of fun.
Naming all the horses the same name.
So either Adam's frozen or he's doing that like mannequin contest challenge or whatever. Like, isn't that a thing that happens on the internet? People try to do like the mannequin freeze.
I don't do
Because
that.
like he's okay. There you guys. Yeah. He's okay. He's got his thing off, his camera off.
No, it's when we used to do when we did Google Hangouts in the past with Nate. He was accused of being a JPEG.
Nate is a JPEG in real life.
So, can I ask I guess a historical reference question for all of you that have played previous editions?
Sure.
What edition do you feel best, I don't know, laid out the groundwork for my favorite race, the Halfling? Do you feel 5th edition does it, or do you feel it was one of the previous editions that really nailed the Halfling?
Lord of the Rings.
I'm gonna toss this one over to Ryan because Halfling is his favorite race, I believe. So he's gonna be
Yeah, so I the 2nd edition AD&D Halfling or Hobbit before they were sued by the Tolkien estate. So I kind of was not a fan of like the plump, frumpy Halfling art. So I like the imagery that they started with 3rd edition. And then for some reason, they kind of went back on it and started making them kind of frumpy again in 5th edition. But the mechanics-wise, like they're still pretty fun to play. And like I think they are closer to this design of that 3rd edition sort of athletic, sort of, get out of the way, dodgy. Like they still have that pluckiness because I feel like that's always been a part of the Halfling. But with their nimbleness, they don't scream frumpy little Bilbo Baggins to me.
All right.
So 5e does a pretty good model of carrying the torch, in short.
And I guess any other of the Nerdarchy favorite races, do you feel like 5th edition really nailed it on I'm not sure if anyone's favorite races are, but do you feel like 5th edition really is the top notch right now, or do you feel, oh, I really like the elves from 3rd edition better than the 5th edition?
5th edition really did double down on everything that came previously. So it is the best incarnation of each race. They made them the most distinct. They had the most characteristics. So I would definitely say 5th edition would probably be... They made each one kind of iconic, in my opinion. And you must not have been around here very long to not know that dwarf was my favorite. Every time I make a character, I have to fight against not making another dwarf.
That was like your what is it, the dwarven spellcaster, right?
Yeah, that's Uzengar is the character that I'm playing now. Yeah. And so when a new game comes up, I'm like, I can make a dwarf. I should try and play something other than a dwarf. But yeah, I feel like 5th edition really captured the best feel of all the all the core races, right? But once you start getting outside of the core races, like the Tiefling, I hate the backstory for the Tiefling. They went with the 4th edition version. I really like Tiefling as being plain touched from 2nd edition. Half orc they went a little weird with too because traditionally like. The half-orcs background, I guess, was a bit unsavory, and they didn't really want that element in the game, so they kind of removed that. And I think, did they make half-elves kind of like a true race too? They start that with 4th edition.
I hated that about 4th edition so much. Like the sort of they got, and yeah, again with the half orcs and things like that. It's just like, no, like these are the product of like mixed humanoid races, and that's fine. Like we can get into some dark adult content if we want to. I mean, it could talk about like making it optional in your world, but come on, what are we playing, Dungeons and Doilies here?
So
Scott Garrity, 2015.
I do feel that the races are more true to what the concepts are in 5th edition. The skills that they give to dwarves and to elves, it makes it seem true to everything that you think of that's there. And like I can remember when we were doing the race reviews for the starter set, and I was like, wow, these elves really are the elves that we had, back in the day, or like the conceptually they're there, and when they didn't have these kind of powers before, they didn't have spell-like abilities in 2nd and 3rd edition, but they made them distinctive. They made them true to what they were. And Dave and Ryan can tell you that back in 2nd edition, I always played an elf, and it wasn't until 3rd edition when it's like, all right, it's really hard to pass up that feat for humans, that I'm like, well, I'm going to play more humans than elves. And I like playing the variety of races, but second edition, I was elves. After that, I'm mostly humans.
So one of the things I was just thinking about, like, because we tell some of the same stories over and over again, and then Ted talking about how he's always played elves. They're basically making fun of Ted, and his character names, because he wouldn't think them through thoroughly, and he would just get ripped apart. But in today's politically correct environment, we cannot delve into that too deeply. So we're going to leave it alone.
Well, basically, he didn't realize he was playing with a bunch of immature assholes that were us. So that was really the problem. Yeah, if he had a more sophisticated pure group, it probably would have been less of an issue.
So I made a pyromancer that I don't remember. Like, I had the name that I liked. I don't know how it popped in my head, or why I didn't decide to think about it. But I made him Grimlock, and the guys just decided to tear me a new one, because anyone who would watch the old 80s Transformer cartoon knew Grimlock's strongest of Autobots. So I heard that every single session, time and time again.
There was also Gaelic Eloquinge.
I was
another one.
I was going to leave that one alone.
Hey, you know what? I was a 13-year-old boy at one point in my history, 13, 14-year-old boy. There's no way a 13-year-old or 14-year-old shithead kid like of the 90s is not going to make mock of that. So, yeah, it is what it is.
In my defense, that was my very first character I made to ever game with, Dave and Steve and Ryan and Nate.
And look, if you think it was brutal because you're a kid of the 90s, well, you were playing with two kids of the 80s. So watch some old movies from the 80s and see what they knew about political correctness back then.
And the 70s were bad too. I mean, Blazing Saddles, holy shit, is it a mess up? like I was like, holy shit, what the fuck are they saying? Good times, good times.
So I'll jump in and say something. I loved your video that you did today about the strength versus dexterity, because our group kind of got into a bit of an altercation, nothing too serious, but there was the side that said, well, wait a second, I'm a fighter, I am strength based, and yet I seem like I pale in comparison to the dex based character. So I was watching it, I don't know, I play a fighter in one of my characters, Sir Merritt, the brown ale and pickled fish character I mentioned last month, and it seems like I can't do anything compared to the halfling ranger. It seems like I am the battle master, so I'm sure that plays into it, because I don't have that crit, the higher crit chance. But I mean, are there any other tips you guys have that you think would make that less, I don't know, I don't want to say broken because it's working, we're having fun and we're playing it, but any other tips?
So essentially, without some kind of fix, just more of an important stat in the game. That's why we're looking at bringing back from 3.5 the 1.5 damage for the 2 weapon fighters, so that at least your average damage is just going to be higher anyway, but your low damage is always going to be higher as well. So you know, it just, and also your maximum damage jumps up just a little bit. But you know, once you get to having your maximum strength of +5, you know, you're doing 7 instead of 5. So it you know, it's a little something at least. Also, and I also thought about it afterwards, is the fact that, you know, the sword and board fighter is superior too, just because of the fact that they have the, you know, you have the ability to up your armor class, which is such a big deal. You know, 2 points in this edition is a huge deal.
Mm-hmm.
Add magic on top of that, you know, like Uthengar is Ted's nightmare, but you know, because, you know, being a wizard fighter with a high armor class, and then on top of that, I throw up shield when he finally does hit me. I'm like, oh, you didn't roll a natural 20? Add 5 to that. And he's like, asshole. But
because you can get up to a 29, right?
Ooh.
Something like that, or 28. He who shall not be named, I think, could get up to a 29 or something if he had the shield spell, but he doesn't.
But the only thing about that too didn't you have the capacity in your game, Ted, for everyone to essentially +1 all their defensive items or whatever, or all their items? So I think because he had a shield and armor, then it's just like, well, there's +2 there. So it's like, as Dungeon Master, we kind of have control over that.
Yeah, but we're 11th level, so we're 11th or 12th level. It's not like, you know, it's not like 5th or 6th level. It took a while to get there. But to my point was, you know, if you take duelist, you're a sword and board. Well, now the duelist is actually, you know, his low damage is actually out damaging the great weapon fighter, which again, it really shouldn't work. It should not be able to work that way. If you're just trading blows, the guy that hits harder should always win. You know, if you're going blow for blow, you know, that's just what skill can beat. Skill can beat strength, but the way skill beats strength is generally by not absorbing the damage.
Yeah, because I noticed, like, for my character, like, my AC is only slightly higher than the Ranger's AC, which I guess the theory being that they would be able to move and dodge out of the way, right? I mean, I'm assuming that's the theory behind the higher AC for a dex-based character.
So here's a thing that I just thought of, and I think there's an option based off of a feat for the hafted weapons. But knowing what I know of actual martial combat, because as some of you know, I did study longsword for a number of years.
Jesus Christ, Ted, we got to hear about that again.
I don't know what Adam knows, so I just had to throw it out there. Shut up. You don't always necessarily have to strike with the blade. So if you're actually in close enough that you're swinging the sword, there's nothing to say that you couldn't step in and punch with your cross guard, or come at him with the pommel. So if your DM is up for it, and you've got that bonus action, just like attacking with an offhand weapon, you could try to see what the GM says about, oh, can I use a bonus action to get just even if it's a die 4 damage on a cross guard, that's enough to do a little bit more. So maybe you could modify that feat. So not only would you be able to get the D4 damage, but maybe apply your strength mod to that as well.
Okay.
Well, I kind of feel like the only thing with that is the way D&D combat is, it's an abstraction. So it's not actually, it's not actually, okay, you get 2 attacks around, so you're only swinging twice.
like I think it's kind of like implied, at least in my way of thinking, it's implied that you're doing all that stuff in the round of combat. It's just that, you know, however many attacks you have, that's actually how many opportunities you're going to get to actually land damaging blows upon your opponent that actually have some kind of effect. But you know, I would have to look at the weapon fighting feats are really good. So that they introduced in Unearthed Arcana, and this is one of the problems with like they're introducing so much cool content in Unearthed Arcana. It's really easy to gloss it over, especially because we're all not like Ted and putting it in a binder, which is really a good idea. But you know, so you can use those options. But I really feel like that's the other part of this. Like if you go back to that Unearthed Arcana and your DM lets you use it, that also will give you a lot more versatility with your weapon fighting styles as well.
And speaking of Unearthed Arcana, one thing I would suggest would be have somebody make a Forge Cleric and then make your character best friends with that character, so they give you and only you the +1, and then the Ranger can just go screw himself. That's what I would do.
Those are all legit resources and solutions for that problem, I feel.
Become besties with Forge Cleric.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
And while you're at it, maybe every once in a while have the rogue sneak attack him.
There you go.
So how much, here's another question. I'm full of questions. How much do you guys bring in the deity aspect into your games? Like, for example, if you have a, like, you know, for a paladin, for example, and that paladin starts to stray, are you pretty quick to pull in, or do you kind of throw out, do you have an NPC of that particular religion, for example, who comes in and preaches a particular word that speaks against what that character is kind of leaning towards? Or do you just, oh, guess what, you go to smite something and it just makes little crackling noises?
In years past, we had fully fleshed out deities and pantheons and you know, all of that stuff, and it's actually kind of a, you know, a grr point for me, because we haven't done as much work on the deities in the world that we're kind of working on now. So it's I'd like to do more with it, and as the DM and a player, I think there's a lot of lost opportunities on that. But typically, yeah, I do. As both the player and the DM, I do like to offer that kind of stuff out there. I like to put more of that religion into the worlds we're playing, because it is something that it makes the world, again, seem more real.
What I've done with similar scenarios, sorry to cut you off, Ryan, you can go ahead. No. You were
I
about
didn't
to say
have
something
anything on this.
Oh,
At
okay.
the moment. No. So,
one of the things that I oftentimes like to do is, depending on how the character wants to play their paladin, because I ran a campaign once in 4th edition with 5 paladins, and that was the entire party. And I think 3 of them multi-classed into something else too, but it was it was really interesting. And what I ended up doing was, since they all had different deities, I picked a similar feature from Volos Guide to Monsters with the Azamar, where they kind of have that like that dream guide that'll you know, give them advice or like some long-term goal, some sort of encouragement. And I would do that infrequently, but enough so that they didn't forget about it. Because then that gives their player a chance to have kind of that one-on-one interaction and some personal story development, but it also doesn't force the party to go down another path. Because I've also been in games where, let's say a cleric, for whatever reason, gets a little murder hobo-y one session, and then, oh, they have to go do some rite of penitence at their temple, and that leads off on like a 2-session quest for everybody else that, you know, we were just looking to find the doppelganger in the town. We didn't, you know, need to then go off and cleanse this whole crypt of stuff. So personally, as a DM, I would say that having kind of personalized deities is nice, because then you don't also waste a lot of time for everybody else's characters. But I wouldn't just like take away their smite ability or something just because they decided to play the character a little bit differently for a while.
So yeah, I guess like Ted said, we used to do a lot more with our Pantheon and our Deities in the previous games we ran. So currently, the Chimes of Discordia campaign setting is kind of like a rehash of one of our old worlds, Ulfgania, with some new ideas, some influences from 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, and us trying to change up some things and make it different. Going back to that, we literally had all the deities written out, their pantheons, what they cared about, a huge binder full of that information. Might still even have it around here somewheres. And I think we did like 3 deities for every alignment. Or something ridiculous like that. So it was like a giant pantheon.
We had 30 deities.
Yeah, we had a lot, including Bob. But I just realized, I don't know if anybody realized this, but Ted is literally about to be attacked by Domo. He could possibly lose his head right now. And
it only took an hour for someone to see it.
And
I noticed the battle axe before we went live, but I assumed that was just a new edition from last month, so I didn't want to bring it up.
And here's
the Domo gods favor red.
The real problem with that is I'm hearing calls for a duel between Ty and Ted with Longsword in the chat, and if Ted loses his head to Domo, this is going to be a huge problem for making that happen.
Okay, so what I was really sounded really quiet and pensive for, or didn't sound quiet. I might have looked pensive, but I was quiet. I was making the thing work to randomly choose somebody from the comment picker, and also making sure to exclude anyone who happens to be a part of Nerdarchy Prime, i.e., the 4 of us. So I have a winner I could announce on the Goblin Tea that I'll have to get in touch with this person. But that's going to be Anna Maria Turek. So I will have to get in touch with her and get her contact information so we can send her a shirt and so she can choose one.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so congrats to you, Anna Maria.
If she's still watching, she can make it real easy for us and email us at nerdarchy@gmail.com. And we can get the contact information and get that out to you. Well, as soon as the campaign ends.
Yeah, I'll also message her on the post just to try to be as prompt as possible. So I'm gonna do that in just a sec.
Okay.
To further your thing, Dave, this is a Nerf axe. So you can see there's really no fear of Domo actually cutting off my head.
I don't believe that. It just depends on how hard he swings it.
Yeah, plus he's the Forge Cleric, and now it's a +1, so now you're doomed.
So +1 Nerf axe, okay.
When I was a child, I saw this documentary on tornadoes and hurricanes, and it's marked me ever since. Basically, when they showed like newspapers that had been flung so fast at such velocity, they actually cut into concrete walls and were embedded. That I believe that axe with enough velocity could take your head clean off, and then there will only be one, and it will be Domo.
All right, well, that happens. Hopefully, you guys can catch it on camera.
Ted got Highlandered by a Domo.
Nice. I did have another question. Y'all, when Adam, actually, you brought up halflings earlier, and everybody's thoughts on those. Which, sorry, I couldn't participate in that. The youngin was fussy.
Because he had a halfling in his arm.
Yeah, your halfling was definitely being sassy at this moment.
Yeah, she didn't appreciate being brought up on the discussion like that. But going back to Volos Guide to Monsters, if you don't have it, get it. It's awesome. I was flipping through, and I found the Kenku. And as a player race, I thought it was really, really interesting because of the mimicry trait. And I just wanted to get a brief opinion on what if one of your players came to the table as a Kenku bard and didn't have any instruments. They just like opened their beak and made noises of the instrument they wanted.
I think that's pretty darn cool.
Okay. Because that occurred to me, and I'm calling dibs on it now. Next campaign I play in.
Kenku Bard. So also, wasn't there like a crow sort of character from the Robin Hood, the animated Robin Hood, where they're like animals? Like Robin Hood was a fox. Wasn't there like a crow minstrel character? I think he would be a perfect inspiration.
Yeah, instead of like having the trumpet to herald the Prince John or whatever his name was, or Prince Robert, he would just sit there and like squawk, and it happened to sound like a trumpet. That's what I'm going for.
See, I would have that character wanting to travel the world to literally listen to the best musicians because they've got the ability to just copy it.
You guys actually have it all wrong. The best part about a Kenku bard is he can play his instrument and be his own applause.
That's very true.
And I had just been corrected by Nate the Nerdarch. I had been corrected by Nate the Nerdarch that minstrel character was a rooster and not a crow.
Oh,
but see Viso.
Okay.
Allendale.
All right.
Allendale, was that his name?
Mm-hmm. My oldest daughter watches it all the time.
Oh, really?
Okay, yeah. No, that one's really fun. I love the animation in that.
I saw that, and that was actually what made me realize the other day like how cool bards can be. Just as like a kind of overpowered spell class, because you can get any spell you want from any class. I think you get 4 of them as a lore bard, and then you just use charisma for it because you're a boss. And so I thought that a creature without a voice would make for a really interesting character as a bard. And the more I read into it, the more I think that would be hilarious to play. I can't, copy anyone's voice at the table, but.
Yeah, I mean, so you can mimic any player character, things you've heard. You could bring a soundboard with you if you really wanted to get into it, just like sound effects, like a cat and just like crazy crap like that, like things that would be normal to hear in like a medieval fantasy sort of setting. Like you could totally do that sort of thing.
You see a little soundboard and have like horses clopping and stuff that I randomly play.
Yeah, exactly.
Nerdarchy Ryan has not read the sidebar on Kenku from Wizards of the Coast.
The one that says don't do that.
Like all the things we want to do is like you probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
You're gonna annoy your players. Also, the Kenku is like the ultimate ninja character because again they are one of the best characters for playing the monk, and they just kind of look like evil ninjas anyway.
Yeah, and I like going back to the argument earlier of how Dex is a super stat. They get the +2 Dex, they get the +1 Charisma. The fact that they can copy handwriting immaculately is a really interesting trait if you wanted to do a rogue and kind of have that mastermind vibe, but play as a thief or an assassin. Because as part of their mimicry trait, any handwriting they see or sound they hear, they can copy perfectly. And it takes, I think, an investigation check on another creature to determine if it's true or if it's real or not. So I think that I would never play like, a Kenku fighter or anything because that thematically just doesn't make much sense to me. But all of those kind of rear line characters like Bard and Rogue, I think those would all be great options for a Kenku.
I don't know. I could see an argument made because Kenkus are attracted to shiny objects that like the full plate armor, like that they just want the full plate armor because it's like the shiniest thing they could possibly have and their body's encased in it. Yeah. I also thought like how hysterical it would be to play a Kenku rogue that like doesn't really have much understanding of the value of treasure. Like they just like to have the most number and the most shiny of things. Like they could be like worthless baubles, but they just like the way they look. And
I'll bring that up with Aarakocra as well, I think. And the What Does Your Race Say About You video, the Aarakocras would really just like the paladin because they have the shiny armor.
Yeah, I think both of them, like bird creatures, like especially if they have that sort of like raven attraction to like just silvers and other gleaming materials, that would work out.
I think it'd be pretty cool. Yeah, that and a Tabaxi monk because I want to go fast.
I'm here in Aarakocra and Kenku party.
Yes. Yeah. So out of Volos, which would y'all say is y'all's favorite new race? Like I know in one of y'all's campaign, y'all had the 2 Gobelos. So I had never played with like a goblinoid PC before, and they have all the sections for that. There's the Tabaxi, the Triton, the Kenku, the revamped Azamar.
I don't have my copy yet, so I've only had a brief glancing at it. Hopefully mine should be shipping out tomorrow or Wednesday at the most. But I like the concept of having the monstrous races as options. Back in the day, and this is probably more than a decade ago, I got to play a bugbear, and I really liked that character in that campaign. So part of me wants to revisit that, but I'll have to give my proper sounding after I get my own copy and get a chance to really grind into it.
I kind of like the fact.
If it were an evil king, oh, go ahead, Dave.
I kind of like the fact when you get to the more monstrous races, they're just kind of like, yeah, these aren't balanced and they're not going to be fair. We're just letting you know. And it is the only place in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons where they actually implement minuses. And it's not like they're balanced minuses like in previous edition. Here it's just like, you're a kobold, so you get a bonus to dex and you get a minus to strength. Deal with it. But at the same time, a lot of the monstrous races also get abilities that completely step on the toes of classes. Goblins get nimble escape. So you're more likely to be a rogue, but you're going to cut into your rogue abilities. But as far as favorite, I really am digging on the Azamar and the Kenku for the PC races. And I'm really torn between those two. Once Ted gets his copy, he might go Lizard Folk because, that's kind of one of his things.
Yeah, what's the Yuan-Ti get? Because Yuan-Ti are awesome. Like, if you play the Villainous campaign, that would be hella fun to play.
So the Yuan-Ti definitely falls in the category of monstrous race where these ones are not so much worried about balance. So Yuan-Ti purebloods get charisma is increased by 2, intelligence is increased by 1, dark vision. They have innate spellcasting. They have magic resistance, poison immunity. So they get a handful of things. Like they're definitely a tier above.
Yeah, they're pretty imba there, but yeah, nonetheless. I feel like that's what's good.
They get poison spray as a cantrip.
Yeah.
Oh, and also they also have animal friendship unlimited number of times, but it only targets snakes.
Isn't poison spray a first level spell?
No, there's a cantrip poison spray spell.
Okay.
Yeah, it does but it's the only one that does a die 12. But it's I think that one's a saving throw, and if they pass, they take nothing. But it's a die 12. And again, getting magic resistance is pretty good, and being immune to poison damage, not bad at all. I mean, as far as damage goes in the game, it's pretty neck and neck with poison and fire. So now you just need to be something that gives you fire resistance, and you'll be like, no, I just don't take damage. Forge cleric, you want to take pure blood. So we've been at this for about an hour, a little bit more. I think it's about time to wrap it up. We gave away a T-shirt. You guys,
so it's lady's choice, whatever she wants. But yeah, we did give away a shirt. So we're happy to do that. If you guys want to go to the Facebook page, you can check out the campaign. We'll have the link in the description of this video by the end of it. So if you want to check that out, I don't know. I think the shirt's badass. I'm looking forward to getting one for myself.
So with that,
we're also giving away the Cringe Adventure with the shirt purchase for anybody who buys it.
Yes, we are. I actually sent one out yesterday.
Cool deal.
Yeah, so basically just forward to nerdarchy@gmail.com, just forward your like receipt or whatever, and we'll reply back with the PDF of the adventure.
Cool.
Yep.
And as always,
Okay,
I want to thank these two guys for being our 9 of the NAG and supporting us at the highest level. Also, Chris Evans that couldn't make it tonight. He had some tragedies he's dealing with. Hopefully everything works out with that. We're very sorry to hear about it. We want to thank all of our patrons for support. You guys help make this possible for us, and our viewers as well. We love all you guys. There's a couple things I think on our homepage for YouTube. Also, there's some spots on our website where you can connect to Amazon. It's that time of year where we're doing holiday shopping. If you want to help Nerdarchy out and buy stuff from Amazon like you always do, use one of our links. It helps us. You get the same Amazon service you always get, same price, same everything. We would greatly appreciate that. And,
Yeah, good looking out, Dave. Good looking out. And yeah, thank you guys for patronizing
it.
us and liking and subscribing and commenting on everything. So appreciate that so much.
So with that, I guess until next time,
Stay nerdy.
Nerdy.